even if people think that they know something, you can actually, there's no way for you to be able to tell that that wasn't implanted. Like, for example, you could say that you know some people, like, they know that the past happened, but how do you know that you didn't just come into one of these bodies? You didn't come into your body today, this body, for the first time. Let me say that again. I don't want to get it confused, you know? You could have just come into this body, the one that you're seeing through, sensing through right now, with all the memories of the past being implanted in the body already, or somehow you got those, and it could have not even been you. We can't even say that for sure. And I think when we have a lot of God, people that claim God realization, the problem can then be when they say that they know that it is this way, because what if that was all just implanted within them during a cosmic trip, and that it's actually nothing like, even though they received the information, they saw it. What if they saw a different universe? You know what I'm saying? What if they saw 868 and we're in like 1,625,000,000? You know what I'm saying? So to come to the conclusion that everything works this way based on if it's a God realization or just a knowingness that we think we have, I think it's very difficult to actually say for sure. And that's why I was going to end it with, I think I realized that I actually know nothing. That's the only thing that I truly do know. So you're about to see the podcast that we did with, you can see right here, Bruno and Marco. But I wanted to announce, and we all wanted to announce here at the beginning, that we are going to be holding, because we got together, we did this podcast, and we realized how well we connected and how we could actually do something that could change the world or really help the world to see, you know, a more expanded view of consciousness. And we wanted to do that in kind of a more official way. So we decided to announce right here that we're going to be doing a conference in Sedona, all three of us together, towards the end of the year, probably in the October-ish region. So right now, we don't have it officially set up because we're still in the works of getting the venues down and everything, but we wanted to say that you can check out the description right now for the waitlist. So you can I can get a hold of you when we have the official announcement of it coming out, but I just want to let you know that that's going to be happening here at the beginning. So we all got different things that we're going to talk about, but Bruno, what do you think you're going to talk about during?
All right, so in my lecture, I think I'm going to talk about just trying to understand reality through different perspectives, whether it be science, philosophy, mysticism, and trying to see how they all connect, just to see a bigger picture. And yeah, just a bigger understanding through all these different perspectives. Marco, what are you going to talk about in your lecture?
Well, while I'm here today, like, seriously, meeting you guys inspired me and helped me find my spark and my motivation to, like, really continue to wake up the collective consciousness. So my lecture is going to be based off of how to connect to the universe, how to receive etheric downloads, meditation, psychedelics, revelational thoughts, you name it. I'm going to address it. It was great meeting you guys. I can't wait for this podcast to drop because, it really felt like we were in one of those conversations where you just got lost in time. And I think people are going to really see that and feel the energy that we bring.
All right, so the conference will be 2 days long. The first day of the conference is going to be each one of our talks, followed by a couple-hour Q&A, so you can ask us any questions that you'd like, as well as a visual audio experience of each one of our talks. And then the second day is going to be an outdoor experience where we go on a hike and we go to some of the sacred sites in the area of Sedona and just explore with you, chat with you, and talk about some of the powerful stuff that are in the area, which is why we're specifically doing it in Sedona. All right, so if you ever wanted to meet me or any of us in person, this is going to be the time to do that and to chat with us. And so that'll be late October, early November, 2-day conference. There's going to be a virtual portion as well as a in-person. So the in-person, I'm sure, will sell out. So get on that wait list. That way you are notified and you can get your ticket to see us live. Otherwise, this is going to be part one of the podcast that we did together, because the total podcast that we filmed while we were together was actually 4.5 hours long. So I split it into two parts. So what you're about to see is the first 2 hours of the indoor portion, and we'll release in a little bit the second half of that where we're outside smoking cigars and just having a good time. All right. So here we go. First half, part one. And also we got James in here because James happened to be in the same Airbnb and he seemed really legit. So I said, just come on the episode. Let's just have some fun and talk. So here we go. Universe of Game, episode 69. So we got in the background, we got our boy James in the background just chilling. He's here. He was hanging out with us. He got in this Airbnb. We're in this Airbnb because we're here at the Russell Museum. We all came together. I invited y'all out to come with me to try out something new. None of us have ever done anything like this. So we were here kind of seeing what's it all going to be about. And I'm just glad I even got to spend time with you guys. Like, shout out to both of you and you. Like, this was a really cool experience.
Yeah, I think we needed to get together and do all this.
Yeah. It's great. I mean, we're on we've been hanging now. We actually recorded a whole podcast for an hour. And it wasn't recording, but I'm looking at the recording function and we're actually recording this time. And we've got backups on just in case. So shit's looking good, man. So I'm excited to be here with y'all and talk about things. But, you know, there's so many different tracks. We could just go off the rim. There definitely is. You know, one thing, we did the first podcast and I just actually really liked it at the beginning because I took it straight to you and I was like, idealism, panpsychism. So, dude, if you don't mind, just run us through the thought process of panpsychism and kind of the philosophical, your understanding of the nature of reality.
Okay, I think I'll do the panpsychism and idealism first because
Sure.
It connects because they're basically different theories that describe reality according to the mind and how it relates to the fundamental nature of reality.
Mm-hmm.
So that's basically what they are. Different positions that explain how the mind connects to not only humans, but like objects and reality itself as a whole. So panpsychism, if you divide the two words, pan means basically everything. Psyche means mind. So it's kind of logical. It means pan means everywhere. So mind is everywhere. And panpsychism is basically the idea that mind is a fundamental feature of reality, or consciousness is a fundamental feature of reality. It doesn't necessarily say that everything is mind or everything is consciousness. Like other ideas say, like idealism basically says that. If you think of it in the analogy that we're in the mind of someone, or if you're in your dream where you see that everything is just forms that your consciousness takes. But in panpsychism, basically is the idea that mind is a fundamental feature of reality, but it's just another thing in the universe at just the fundamental level, which is why I don't really like it, because I personally like the position of idealism, which is when literally everything is mind.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I like to think of it in the analogy that we're literally in a dream, in the creator or the source's dream, because right now what we're experiencing is consciousness from one specific point of view, one subjective perspective. But at the same time, if you have the theory that everything is made of mind, like this chair or this table, us, our bodies, our cells, the universe and reality around us, in a dream, when you're in a dream, you're experiencing reality from a specific point of view in that dream. And simultaneously, another part of your consciousness that you're unaware of is imagining the dream characters and the reality around you, while at the same time localizing itself or a portion of itself in a specific character to experience that dream from that perspective. So like maybe a greater consciousness right now is imagining all of this while at the same time localizing a portion of itself in your perspective, your individual point of view, my individual point of view, your individual point of view, and his individual point of view. And it's just like, but then you have to ask, like, for what reason, I guess. But I guess this is all going off on like a tangent on idealism, which is basically that everything is mind. So we're all in mind, and just matter is mind, and panpsychism is something else. But I like idealism more.
Nice. And I just wanted to apologize to you because you're sitting in the middle. So you gotta run the whole time. So it's gonna be the hardest to get your audio right, nice and good. We're trying to find a good spot for you, because I remember the first podcast it was down here. Now you're up here.
That happy medium point, like right here. I'm lucky because I have this little armrest right here where I can just kind of chillax right here. You know.
Hey, look, I get you a pillow.
Get comfortable.
You chilling, bro. Hey.
There you go.
There it is. Let's
too.
go. But yeah, I mean, that's a really interesting concept to think about. You know, is everything mind? Or is mind an aspect?
It is
of consciousness. You know, it could go either way.
Yeah. What do you think personally?
That's a good question, man. It could really go many ways. I kind of like the way that the Kybalion, there are things I do like and don't like about a lot of different philosophies. I try to take things, not take as in actually take, but try to pull from different areas because I think it's nice. I don't know about you guys. You guys make a shit ton of videos too, so maybe you understand this. Like just trying to balance what is my perspective actually versus I'm going to pull from this and then say that, and trying to find like an original thought sometimes. I kind of struggle with that. But I think because I'm thinking to myself, hey, are people going to relate if I say Kybalion versus just what I say? Do you guys struggle with that? I'm going to answer it, but I'm just curious.
I don't know. Like, I feel like sometimes I always have to find something to relate it to make it believable. Like, I can't just pull something like out of thin air and then people are like, well, where'd you get that from? Like, what are your sources? Everybody wants to know. You see on TikTok all the time, sources, trust me, bro. Like, okay, like I hear you, but it's like when you pull sources, then you run into that territory where people want to nitpick this source. Like, well, according to them, they were wrong. It's just like, let me just get this thought out my head because it's here. I got it from somewhere. And you see, we both all struggle from source, like quoting the law of one. It's kind of, Bruno and I were talking last night about how, what if at the end of the day, they're all pulling from the same source? Like they're just reflipping it. Like this Russell experience when they're talking about the octave. Like, what if someone, like, it's like like our content, like I put something out first, Bruno put something out, then you put something out. It's kind of quoting the same thing. But what if like Russell read the law of one at one point, and then he's like pulling similarities from there and just reflipped it on its head?
I mean, that would be cool, but Law of One was way after the old Russell guy was around. He was 20s, he's been around. And I think Law of One came out in the 80s. Was he still alive in the 80s?
In the 90s, I think.
Oh, well, he could have read it then.
No. Russell died.
Walter Russell is who we're talking about.
Yeah, Leo died in the 80s. Russell died 25 years. Yeah. He died earlier. But what I'm saying is, like, we just flipped the timelines. Like, let's just say.
But anyways, your point's still there.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter if it's actually factual, right? Yeah, I get it, and that's why sometimes I'm like, oh, there's this, and I think it can be helpful to relate, but I still sometimes just kind of want to formulate it myself. So I guess I'll kind of draw from the Kybalion and the first principle, universal principle, which is everything is mind. Everything is mind. Yeah, you could say everything is a concept that we know of besides the present moment. So everything that we experience is anything besides, we could say, pure awareness, which is just, we don't even have to be aware that we're aware. So I think existence could actually be that, because being aware that you're aware is actually still another stepping stone that I don't think you need. Like, I think that everything, in my kind of worldview, everything has awareness, but we just don't understand or can't comprehend what awareness would be. And I think it can be as simple as it's just existing in the present moment. And so if everything can experience the present moment, but not everything can understand it, I think there can be a difference between the self-awareness that we might be, or humans, that's more what I mean, can be able to generate that.
Yeah, I think the one thing I would say, like, there's a crucial difference, I think, when you say, like, something has awareness is more like the panpsychism point of view, like something has consciousness rather than it is consciousness, just in a specific form, appearing as it is right here, like right now. Like in a dream, everything literally is in one mind, but it appears like an object or like an entity which appears to have awareness when it's really just mind itself localizing itself as like something. Like if you think about it, I guess in the best way, like in a matrix or like a video game, everything is the underlying code, but at the surface level, it appears like characters, like cars, like a road, and it's like, but underlying it all, there's just one thing, and it's mind or consciousness itself. And it's just having different experiences through forms like you and me, which I think like kind of has that whole idea that if everything from the law of one perspective is God's evolution or the evolution for consciousness, it makes sense that everything would be a form of consciousness, because it's a different form that one consciousness takes to like experience itself through all that is.
Right. One of my lessons was being aware that I am aware, but that was like the very beginning stage of the lesson. but the overall arcing theme of it was be present and being in the moment. And Nick, I want to talk about this before we get too deep into this, because you mentioned Matrix. And I just want to say, Nick breaking away from the Matrix, starting this podcast is something that has truthfully inspired me. Like I'm the student from you now, because honestly, bro, like you, bro, I'm in this new transition in my life, this new journey where I've been in the fire department for so long, and I've like internally feel as if this is not me anymore, and I need to step away. Like I was studying for lieutenant for the longest, and I wasn't present with my family, my friends, because I was so focused on studying for this particular exam, this promotional exam that's literally saying, oh, you're going to be stuck in this matrix for another 20 plus years. You're going to become that then Agent Smith. I felt like Neo, who had to break away from this matrix, that desk job. And you literally have the blueprint, which I have to ask you, like, what inspired you? Like, when you were like, you know what, I'm done. This is the last straw. Like, I'm done with the 9 to 5. I'm going to create my own path, doing what I love doing. Because that's where I'm going to transition to starting this year.
Yeah.
And I'm learning from you.
All right, if you're enjoying today's podcast, I think you'll really enjoy today's sponsor, my book, 10 Secrets of Awakening, the secrets to understanding consciousness, life transformation, and self-realization. This is what keeps a podcast going. So to support the podcast, I highly recommend that you check out the book. A lot of the topics that we discuss in today's episode are also expanded in great detail in my book. So check it out, paperback or ebook on Amazon. The link is in the description.
First off, I just want to say shout out to James. He's getting some pictures, dude. He's just fucking dropping some pictures in. I didn't even ask him. He offered. What a gentleman, by the way. So don't think I've ever had professional pictures done. Have you guys?
No.
Well, you're not getting that. No.
Come on,
It's got to
man.
be close.
Hey, I saw the flash. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh shit. Should I give him a cheese? Give him a little... Nah. But so I just want to say I'm glad that I can inspire you, man. That's my goal, is to kind of not only just help people to understand the world, but how they can practically start to do what they really want to do. You know, because that's important. If you're just spending your whole life doing something you don't want to do, working for someone, working for the man, as they used to say in the 80s and 90s, if you're just doing that the whole time, then it sucks. You know, we were talking about you had trying to find the balance.
Right. Because this whole experience, like, and thank you for the opportunity inviting me out here. Shout out to Kim. But the experience, like, we talked about how all four of us we came out here for the science aspect of it, because we're very we're very deep thinkers, and I think we wanted to dive right into that right away, as opposed to taking in the moment, taking in the human experience, having these organic human connections, which is what we're supposed to do in life. We're supposed to have organic human experiences and live in the moment. And this experience here was a very grounding moment for me. Is a very aha. Like, I saw that my life has an imbalance with work and the freedom. Like when we did the seesaw, like, I literally drew out and I saw that, okay, work is overbalancing everything in my life right now. And it needs to flip. Like, there needs to be a balance where the work that I'm doing is what makes me happy. And it's allowing me to connect and go closer towards the goal with waking up the collective consciousness. Not even just that. Like, I thought that we were here for the science, and I didn't understand that the message in the science, but now I think I kind of understood it without really diving into the book just yet. And the message overall was to literally just go out there and be free. Like, you see that Walter Russell lived his life to the fullest. He was in his 90s, and he's still doing these advanced scientific concepts. But at the age of 30, like, this man had a 4th grade education, but he lived his life. Like, take away the science aspect of it, he lived his life to the fullest. And that's what we all need to do is live our life. Like I had that aha moment. Like I'm not about to work till I'm 60 and then live my life, because tomorrow's not promised. Today is when you look at the clock, the shortest hand on it, like the shortest hand and the fastest hand is the now. And that's how fast these moments go. Like, and we need to appreciate them. So I appreciate these these organic human connections that I'm experiencing with y'all right now. I haven't checked my phone, haven't checked any social media. Like, this is what we all need to do. Even though it is your job to be on social media, but at the same time, it's balance.
Yeah, man. I think I want to go back to what you were saying even before I responded, because I thought there might be a question in there. If there is, let me know. If not, I just didn't want to move on. You know what I'm saying?
The question definitely was like, everyone has their aha pivotal moment where they're just like for example, like you tell me to write a book, right? I have an abundance of knowledge. Like, and my question to counter your question, like to you, is what did you like? How did you know to write the book? Like, what made you say, this is the book I'm gonna write? You had an abundance of knowledge, like we all do. You do, and you're working on your book. Like, this is a question for both of you,
which is
guys,
fire.
Actually, this is
you're showing me some stuff.
Yeah, like I'm inspired by both of you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, to be real, and I'm older than both of you. Like, I'm 31, and you guys are younger than me by 10 years, and you guys have accomplished a lot in just the time period you're here, and you're making the most of it. And I have to say, kudos to both of you. So as far as the book, not everyone's going to go out there and take the time to write a book, but as you can see, I've noticed a trend with people who write their books really create their own path. So what was that moment where you just was like, this is the book?
Okay, so I think it's a great question, and I want to kind of nuance it a little bit more. Are you asking, how did I come up with the idea to do a book instead of other things, or the specific book? Because those are two different answers.
You're
like
right.
The ideas for the book, or like just the concept of writing.
The concept of writing a book, like who inspired you for that first and foremost?
Matt and Ash, the yoga couple. They'll be one of the podcasts I do, because I'm going to go visit them in Hawaii. They're gracious enough to, I'm going out there to hang out. I've never met them in person, but I've known them for years and we're good friends. And they wrote their book, The Inner Work, and they were the first people that showed me that it's possible without a publisher. And it's not something that, like, when you think about writing a book, you think, oh, it's professional, where you have all these agents and a book agent and all this shit, honestly. And it's not necessary. They basically kind of forged the path of, oh, you can self-publish a book on Amazon and just write it, send it to an editor, and get it formatted. It's not too difficult. And I thought to myself, well, what is going to be something that's fulfilling? And I've had a lot of people that have inspired me, like Alan Watts has been a big inspiration in my work, and Joe Dispenza, Greg Braden, the Three Amigos, Bruce Lipton, and I could just go on with the people and books that have inspired me. And I realized that how powerful a book can be, that it's like kind of this library of someone's life experience. It can be like a biography, but it can also be like, this is just what I think of things, and how much you can learn from just one person's perspective. And I also realized something I told you, because I know at one point we talked on the phone and you were struggling with, you're continuing to research, and it's like, when do you
Even
say
now.
it's right? You can't stop putting more shit in the book. Yeah, but I realized that who I am right now is enough. Like, I didn't need to know more, and that my perspective right now was valid enough, and it is valid, to help people at this point. Like, I didn't have to become someone else because I already committed. And that because I'd always thought about writing a book, but then I was like, if I write a book 2 years from now, it might actually be not as helpful to someone who's might be struggling with what the things I am. And so I was like, I want to document this version of me, because I know that this version is helping people. And so the version is in the way that I perceive the world. And of course, it's not going to be all correct. Like, it's not going to be, I don't think anyone's batting 100. That's just my perspective. So Unless you're saying nothing, like in Zen, right? if your way of self-realization is there is no way, okay, that's one thing to think about. But yeah, I think it was just deciding I'm enough now. I've researched enough, and what do I feel like looking back? What is it? Two things actually. Looking back and looking forward for a sec. Looking back, what is something that I really struggled with, and I studied the hero's journey and I looked at my life. And that's kind of how I structured the book. It was like I looked at my life. I'm like, what was my hero's journey? And then I'm like, I began it with the game. That first chapter in the book is the game. It's like, that was kind of my first thing, realizing that reality isn't what it seems. Now, it wasn't that life is a game or that it's a simulation. That wasn't like the very first thing, but it was like this sense that things aren't, what people say, the Matrix. It's kind of seeing that there's a whole world that is very different than what we're told it is. And so I'm like, well, that's what I started with. And then I just continue with the hero's journey. I think Joseph Campbell's work with the hero's journey and Hero with a Thousand Faces was pivotal for me to understanding storytelling and weaving my story in with telling people, what I think life's like. And, in the second book that I'm working on, it's going to be a different style. And I think that's beautiful to just pick a style. How do I want to write this? And I got inspired by Matt and Ash. They're like, we're doing this. And I'm like, oh, shit. Okay, so all I got to do is write it. And I just went hard. And wrote it. And for those that did the Exit the Matrix challenge, that kind of became my framework because I do challenges, which are basically like live streamed courses. I did one a while ago and I was like, this is 30 days it took me a long time to come up with that structure. And I'm like, okay, so I got the hero's journey. And I've got all this stuff that I just shared. Like it was the Exit the Matrix. So it was like, how do people do that? And well, that's a book. It was like clear to me because she was talking to me at the same time. I was getting the message from her, like, this is how we did it. And then I was getting the message from like the challenge. I'm like, oh, this is, and it like kind of all came together. I'm like, that's the moment, but if you're kind of starting a book from scratch, we might be wondering, where do I go or what do I do? The question is what type of book do you want to write? The first question that I would ask to anyone. And the reason why I say that, to make that more practical, let's take a look at Graham Hancock. He's written many books, but it's on ancient civilizations. He dialed that in to like, this is what the topic is like. I'm going to help people understand this specific nuanced topic. Or do you want to do an overview? Just an overview of life. And I feel like that's more what my book was, with linking consciousness, life transformation, self-realization. Your book might be more just like
reality.
Philosophy of consciousness. Mm-hmm. Would you say?
Mine's more just the nature of reality, like as a whole, like, but from different perspectives, like we were talking about before, like if reality itself is like an elephant and we are just blind men around the elephant trying to touch the elephant from different points, and we can only see parts of the elephant, or not really see, but at least touch parts of the elephant. Yeah, sense. And every single different person or blind person is basically like a different field, like science or religion or mysticism. And they're just different ways of understanding the same object or the same reality. And the way to come closer to the truth is to see it through as many perspectives as you can, through science, through religion, through mysticism, through like any way of knowing, like epistemology. And I think like every single one of them has a different way of coming to know reality and also a different answer on what reality actually is. Like, what is the elephant and how do you actually come to know the elephant? Do you touch it? Do you smell it?
Can you know it?
That's a thing, like an even bigger question, because if reality can only be understood from an infinite amount of perspectives, not one person is going to be able to understand it from an infinite amount of perspectives, at least simultaneously. I think only a limited portion of it. Like if reality is like a puzzle, we can at least gather parts of the puzzle and everyone can only tell you the part of the puzzle piece that they gathered or at least put together. But I don't know if we're actually going to be able to ever actually put the whole puzzle together. I mean, philosophy and religion has been around for thousands and thousands of years. We've been asking the same questions. Who are we? Where do we come from? What is consciousness? What is the nature of the world around us? And how do we relate to it? That's a question that's been around for like 4,000, 3,000 years ago. And we're still asking the same questions and just giving a little bit of not even giving little bit of different answers. We're still giving very similar answers. Like if you go back to like Hinduism and Vedanta, they basically said what I'm saying, idealism, that everything is consciousness. And like different religions also say like on this whole other tangent of being, and that reality is just being itself in different forms, which is like a whole other topic.
God.
Yeah. Or God.
Religions are
Yeah.
also saying God.
Yeah.
Well,
Being is
I want
God.
to talk about that.
Okay.
Okay, because this is a huge topic for us. Because when we talk like this and we're sharing a philosophy in this way, it runs directly maybe against Western ideology, religion. So, does someone who sees God as a being who's their community?
Okay, so it's a very different thing, because when you think of God, normally most people, I mean, not most people, but traditionally you may think of God as a being, something that exists, like an object or an entity, like we are something that exists, a being. You're a being, I'm a being, you're a being. Even chairs and tables, they're just beings in a sense that they're just an object or a thing that exists. But when you think of God, you think of something that is omnipresent, possibly omnipotent, and it's not limited by anything. It's literally everywhere, all at once. And it's something that's also the source of everything that exists, all of reality. The only thing personally that I would think fits in that category is just being itself, which is like a very, very abstract concept. It's not something that is, it's the very nature of what it means to be. It's that isness itself, like the very nature of existence and reality, without anything. I normally think of it as, or at least different traditions and mystic philosophies have thought of it as like nothing, because it's not an object, it's not a thought, it's not anything that is. It's the very nature of what it means to be or exist. It's just being itself, which is not an entity or an object. It's like when you remove everything from existence, what you're left with is the very nature of existence, which is just being, which you could say a lot of different religions with the argument with God is something that always existed, that necessarily had to be like, it needed to exist for everything to come into being or exist. And being, if you take everything out of existence and being is only left, that's something that necessarily has to exist because it is existence, or like at least maybe one of its fundamental properties is existence. And everything after that is like what we all experience as the world. Like things that are, I call them the infinite becomings of being, because they're things that came into existence rather than being, which always existed.
It's like emergent outgrowths of that foundation.
Yes, exactly. And it's like we're contingent things that didn't have to exist. And when you think about it, it's like an ocean, like it's normally thought about in the analogy of an ocean, even with consciousness too. Like in Vedanta, that's one of the main analogies.
Okay, so as we're on the universe game right now. So I got to ask this question. I want to hear your answer to that one as well after this. Okay. So if we're in a game, a universe that is a game, and it's like a video game, let's just hypothesize. I'm not saying this is the case, but I'm just curious as to how you would think about this. Just like Tron. You ever seen Tron?
Yeah, but in what ways are like Tron?
Wait, I'm getting there, brother. Just give me a sec. I was asking it. In Tron, there is the created game, and then the creator actually is a person who goes into the game and then could come out and is not in the game, but he's still the creator. And that's what I kind of how I feel Western religion sees God. It's like this creator who created everything that just here's the universe. And they throw it, and he kind of comes in. Was like, "What's up? Get your shit together. You're going to hell, bitch." And it's like
the magician, like with the bunny out of a hat,
right?
Something from nothing, and it didn't come from an essence that already existed,
right?
Like God, it just poofed it out of nothing,
right? And so then, how do you see? How would you How would you see that? How would you argue against that?
I mean, I would argue against that with the very analogy of the magician. Like, you can't have something from like literally an essence that, like from nothing, like a magic. So like you pull a bunny out of a hat. That's not really something that I think happens. Like you need a foundation. Like you need a foundation. Like if you think of it, I used to really think of God as some sort of energy or like something, which you can still think of it as that. that's like one of the perspectives. I think from being, that's one of the first manifestations of being, like a form of energy or something that it can actually transform into
like a source of
like
energy.
a source of energy or something like that. But it's like something that existed for like everything else to actually like pull their own existence from. Like I would think of it as like it's not really a creation when it's like a magician, something it's created from nothing. Like a magician just pulls a bunny out of a hat. It's a transformation of something that already existed that transformed into something else. So like one of the main principles, at least in the universe, is the second law of thermodynamics, that energy, the same energy of the universe has always been constant, and it only transformed into different things. Like it's the same energy, but it's been transforming.
You're saying that a god or like a Tron, like his name isn't Tron. I don't remember what the name is in the movie. Do you remember?
I don't
Top of your
remember.
head. But the guy comes in and goes out. You're saying that with the second law of thermodynamics, he couldn't bring his energy into the universe and manifest as a being and then take it out. Is that what you're just getting at?
Like,
I'm just curious.
I'm just saying, like, in that idea, it seems like God created everything not from himself or not himself. I don't think it really has a pronoun, but
it doesn't. I mean,
I'm
for
just saying,
reference,
yeah,
that's
for
how most
reference,
people
will
say
think of it.
Yeah.
But like in that idea, God created everything from like literally nothing. Like we normally think like it's not something that's a part of God. When it's like I think of it as something that it's literally a part of itself that it used to create everything.
But if the creator is infinite, then couldn't it take a part of itself without losing it?
Yeah, that's like the whole thing. But I guess in the other way, like people think of it as it created from nothing. Like it didn't use a part of itself because it's separate from creation. It just like poofed a bunny and the bunny's over there. God is over here.
Yeah.
And the bunny didn't come from the magician's atoms or the magician's energy. It just came from literally like magic out of nowhere, which normally people think like God created everything ex nihilo from nothing.
But what if manifestation is like the way, the ways in mind? If everything is mind, then you create with the mind.
I kind of was thinking of that because
I'm just spitballing here. I'm not saying that that's the view of the podcast. You know what I'm saying?
Totally with it. Like, and going back to your magician theory, like remember how we were seeing in the museum how it's an illusion. Like, and it's almost like the chicken and the egg. What came first, chicken or the egg? Like we have I feel as if God, source, universe plays an illusion onto what our human minds perceive as what is real and what is fake. So, and I noticed like when you take a step back, like for me, for example, like I grew up in a Christian household. So you're taught God is the Father. You don't live by this way, you're going to hell. And it's not until I took a step back from that, when we're going back to how the blind man and elephant theory, like I'm seeing how Eastern religion talks about the energy, like God being an energy that flows through all of us. And Western religion is more like, no, it's this omnipotent being that is overseeing everything and is controlling everything. And then it's just like, when you take a step back, you have a non-biased opinion and you're not just narrowed in on just the one picture. You see the big picture of like energy. It can't be created nor destroyed. It's only transferred. So this is an essential, just an essence of energy just constantly being transferred. You and I are God. We are all a form of a divine being that are humble messengers of the universe, spreading this consciousness, this energy that we all possess. And it's interesting when you try to tell people this, like a lot of people, the cognitive dissonance instantly shuts them off and they're like, you're not God. I'm not God. He's there. And you're just like, no, bro, you're not hearing me. Like the Bible literally says God is the kingdom of God is within you. And a lot of people don't really understand that one concept right there. Like it exists within us. And that's why I say when you only focus and you like are so conditioned and you are indoctrinated, you don't see the full picture.
And I think you need those different perspectives, like you said, like even though like this Christianity does say it's separate, like we were saying with the elephant, I think there's still different things in like the Bible, like you said, the kingdom of God is within you. Different pockets of wisdom in every single perspective that exists, like whether it be Christianity, Buddhism, Hinduism, like all of them. And I think even in Christianity too, there's this whole thing. I mean, it's not really Christianity because it's from Genesis, which is really from Torah, which is Jewish religion, one of the 5 books of the Torah, in which it says, or God basically in stating God its own identity, it says, I am that I am, which is basically your own sense of I amness, which I related to like when you are, you exist, you are. That's the verb for being. I am is the verb for being. And it's also the way in which we understand what consciousness is from a philosophical point of view. We say that consciousness is what it is like to be something. Like when you're conscious, you have an inner sense of being. You exist as an entity which has inner existence, inner being. And it's like you have an I amness within you. When we say God is within all of us, because it's that very same nature of reality as being, which is also within us as inner being, in which it's not only something that exists everywhere, but it's something that has inner existence within us to experience its own outer existence as being itself. But it's our own sense of I amness. Rene Descartes says that just this one thing, like he said, I think, therefore I am. And that's like the one thing that you can't doubt, which I don't really think is the best way to say it, because he's saying thinking comes before being. I think, therefore I exist. I think it's really the first thing you can know. That's like a knowledge that you can't really doubt, is that you experience that you're conscious, that you exist. I am, therefore anything.
Look, bro, like to be real, like we have all this, we read so much, and I take everything with a grain of salt. And I think a lot of people lack that ability to, like, we have that gift to just actually say, you know what? I hear what you're saying, but I formulate my own thoughts, and I'm not going to go with it as absolute truth. We don't see things as absolute. Like we're not just told, oh, this is what it is. Just go with it. That's what makes, I think that's what separates us, all of us. Like we have that ability to have that reasoning where we're just like, you know what? I don't know. Is the sky flat? Is this earth flat? Is there space? Like, I don't know. I've never been there. I don't have these answers. I'll know once I cross over and go to that great beyond. But like at the end of the day, this stuff is all man-made. Like, who's right and who's wrong?
That's true, yeah. I think we can't know until you actually like, that's the whole thing. Like, what even is knowledge itself? Is it
That's
something that you know or like directly experience?
I don't like the word no.
Yeah.
I don't know about don't like, but it's tough for me when people say that they know. Just because when we had that conversation in the car about, I was telling you, because we've been hearing the word no a lot, and I'm like, wait a sec, because when you say no to me, maybe my definition is skewed. And if it is, let me know. But when you say no, you mean 100%. Like with 100% certainty, like there is no, it will not or cannot be an illusion or wrong in any way. That's my definition. Would you say that's accurate or no?
That is accurate. But I always look at it like the man who knows everything knows nothing at all. Because the more you know, the more you realize you don't know.
That was something Socrates said. He said, the only thing that I know is I know nothing.
I was getting there.
Yeah.
I was getting there.
Yeah, that's where it is. You slam dunked it.
You fucking stole my quote. Fuck. That's all right. Anyways, I feel like we were talking about how even if people think that they know something, you can actually, there's no way for you to be able to tell that that wasn't implanted. Like, for example, you could say that you know some people, like, they know that the past happened, but how do you know that you didn't just come into one of these bodies? You didn't come into your body today, this body, for the first time. Let me say that again. I don't want to get it confused, you know? You could have just come into this body, the one that you're seeing through, sensing through right now, with all the memories of the past being implanted in the body already, or somehow you got those, and it could have not even been you. We can't even say that for sure. And I think when we have a lot of God, people that claim God realization, the problem can then be when they say that they know that it is this way, because what if that was all just implanted within them during a cosmic trip and that it's actually nothing like, even though they received information, they saw it. What if they saw a different universe? You know what I'm saying? What if they saw 868 and we're in like 1,625,000,000? You know what I'm saying? So to come to the conclusion that everything works this way based on if it's a God realization or just a knowingness that we think we have, I think it's very difficult to actually say for sure. And that's why I was going to end it with, I think I realized that I actually know nothing. That's the only thing that I truly do know.
Know what you're experiencing in this moment.
Yeah, that's
Right.
what I was
That
gonna
this
say.
this is happening.
And are you saying like maybe you just spawned into universe of the game? Is that what you're saying?
That could be possible. Again, it's not that I know that it is,
Right.
but that, you know, it might be a thing.
Rick and Morty stuff, you know, we were talking about like,
Right.
Wasn't that Roy? You're talking about Roy?
Remember when, Roy, he was working in a library shop and he's like, well, you beat cancer just to go back and work in a rug store? Like, what? And then he wakes up and
We'll explain the concept. Go back a little bit so people have never seen it.
Rick and Morty, there's this episode where Rick and Morty essentially go to this place and it's like an arcade in another dimension. And one of the video games is controlling this guy, Roy's life. And Morty goes and does Roy's life. And he pretty much is like, he just goes through the basic motions of life where he goes to high school. I don't think he goes to college. So I don't really remember.
Just lives.
He just lives, and he finds his joy at a rug store, working at a rug store. And then he has a family. Then he has cancer, and then he beats cancer, and he goes back to the rug store, and then he dies climbing a ladder, and then
Falling backwards or something.
yeah, and then Rick makes fun of Morty, like, "Gosh, you beat cancer just to go back to a rug store. Let me give it a try." And then Rick goes in and you hear the people in the background like, "Oh wow, Rick's giving, he doesn't have a social security number." Like he's making Roy live a completely fast track life, and they're cheering him on. And it's also cool. You notice how Rick is still lucid as he's like participating in this guy's life, but you see how real, like when you're so caught up in someone like this illusion, like you don't know what's real and what's fake. And who's to say that we all aren't in this illusion? Once we go, we're going to unplug and be like, all right, let's do it again. Or you want some more? You want to try someone else's life? Like,
Bro, that's what Journey of Souls, Dr. Michael Newton, for those that read him, that was one of the beginning books way back in the day that I started with. And that's basically what you're saying. You know, it says in Journey of Souls, you leave a percentage of your soul in the soul world, or whatever they want to call it. And there was like over 10,000 hypno regressions past, they actually call it life before lives, LBL, that they discovered that that's basically what it was, that we're all just putting a part of our awareness in. And I think that's a key fundamental concept to the universe even being a game. So when I say the universe is a game on the podcast, I mean that it's very likened to a video game, but I'm not claiming that there is a God outside or inside. And I think that's left for interpretation. Like the only real thing that I think is like, okay, how do we solidify this concept is that it's like a video game in a sense. Yeah.
I really like that because if you think of your senses, vision, sound, touch, they're like inputs. They're like video game controllers that you're navigating the story of your life with.
Mm-hmm.
And if you just think about it that way, then you realize how much power you really have over the outcome.
Yeah.
Like you just, let me press A, so I can do this, let me press B. And then you're a little removed from maybe the emotional, like John was saying earlier today, when something really bad is going on, you just kind of, if you can devalue it, maybe it doesn't hit you as hard.
Yeah, I said that shit last night. Remember that? I was like, it's just the value that you put on thoughts versus trying to get rid of thoughts. Because at one point they were talking, I'm not trying to talk shit. I think it was a great experience. But at one point they said, your thoughts create your reality or something like that. And it was like, you've just got to change your thoughts. And I'm like, you don't got to change your thoughts. You just have to choose which ones are, and you could make the semantic argument that it is changing. But to me, the more nuanced way to say it would be, you're actually just choosing which thoughts you're valuing and which ones you're not. Because if a thought comes in that, you know, you're like, what's a negative thought right now? Let's just say I'm ugly. That's a thought that I might have. Okay. And I know that that's not true consciously, but it's just like a Siri suggesting me, hey, you're ugly. And it's just like, if I don't value it, then it's not going to bother me. So to me, it's more about choosing which thoughts you're actually going to commit to. Like, okay, if you see that this is going back to Eastern philosophy. They see they even go as far to say no thoughts are true, right? No conceptualizations are actually reality, and reality is beyond symbols. And if we're experiencing life just completely through the symbols of how our minds are interpreting it, it's not actually reality. We're just something way far outside of what is real in a sense. Just like is Siri or these things, if you have one of those going on in your mind, it's just that. It's just a suggestion versus it's facts.
I was just gonna say, this is like a big question too. Like, do you guys think there's like a one thing that you can't doubt at all? Like, can you doubt that you're experiencing anything at all? That you are experiencing? Like, that's the whole thing about that you're conscious. Like, can you doubt that you're experiencing reality and that you exist?
Can I doubt it?
Yeah, like
I can. Yeah.
And you can doubt it, but it's like, is it a certain knowledge? Like, I mean, in that sense, I guess you can doubt it, but it's like, in what way can you doubt it?
I can abstractly think that I can,
but
it's a potential.
But I guess you still are experiencing something. You're experiencing the doubt of it too. Like, can you doubt that you're experiencing? That's what I'm trying to say.
There are a lot of people who are actually detached from reality because they get so caught up in certain concepts. Like, for example, me thinking we're in the Matrix. Like, you can doubt that this is all real. Like,
yeah, but I'm saying, like, if you can doubt that you're experiencing anything at all, whether it be an illusion or it's actually something real.
Or you say that maybe your sense of being isn't even real. Can you doubt that sense of being is?
Yeah. Like your inner sense of being. Is this something you can doubt?
I think it is something that you can actually do, but I think the deeper question is that true? Is that actually something that you can say for certain? Can you say that existence doesn't exist for sure? Is that really what you're deeperly getting at?
I guess,
because it's like so. I can say doubt it right now. I can say fuck no. Yeah. But that doesn't mean that it's true.
Yeah, that's true.
That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah, so I guess in that sense you can say, like, obviously I'm not experiencing anything, even though you could be. And you could say, like, I guess the only thing you can say is, like, non-existence doesn't exist because the very definition of non-existence is for it not to exist. Like, it doesn't exist. And the very definition of non-existence, it can't be because it is non-being.
This starts to really show how words are tools or ineffective tools. Yeah, I guess that's very like semantic and like but it's like, it's like turtles all the way down type thing. And more you like just loop over and over, you can't really find meaning in what you're saying. You know, if you ask the question a lot of times, you just get in this space of just be instead of asking the question. Mm-hmm. So I think it's a good tool in that way. But I don't know if you're going to find an answer.
Dr. David Hawkins, my boy. I love Dr. Hawkins. He's just like a complete figure of a man who was someone who was able to reach a sense of wholeness within this life and completeness and connectedness. And, there's so many people that were like in his, like they actually physically were around him and they were like, they could feel what enlightenment or that whatever we call enlightenment, that it is actually a thing that's attainable. It's not just the present moment, but there's actually a state that you can be in. And we can call that enlightenment, but again, it's just a symbol. But all words are like that. So we have to use something to at least understand each other, right? So that's what we're trying to do. But Dr. Hawkins reached that enlightened type state where, like I said, people will go into his presence and they'd be like, yeah, like I knew someone, I was sitting around them and they're my friend, actually a neighbor. And they felt it in their heart. There was like this feeling of just complete love that is so far beyond anything that they've ever. So it was a real, I would say that it's real. I don't know if I agree with the statement that this isn't real. Personally, I see it as being as real as if I was in a game. Like, I'm really playing the game. It's there. He's fucking there. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like just saying that it's not real isn't accurate to me. This is leading somewhere, by the way. So to me, to kind of bring that around, Dr. Hawkins, actually, that was one of the fundamental questions that he pondered as someone in a higher level of consciousness. Is there existence and non-existence, is non-existence a thing? Like, is it actually a thing? Like, can something not exist? And he said no. The answer he gave was that no, that you can't. Everything, like existence as a concept, but a concept's not reality in a sense because it's just a symbol. Even you can't experience it. Just like if I say the word map, you can't actually experience that. You can abstractly with another symbol then say, but that's not actually the experience of being at the country. Do you know what I'm saying? So you can say that non-existence is a concept, but is it a reality? Could anything ever be there? And he said no. So that's just something that I thought of when you were talking about non-existence and existence. Because I would agree that you can't not exist. Now the next question is like we're contemplating this week Walter Russell's work. What is stillness? What is formlessness? Because they called it stillness. They said God is stillness, right? At least I think that's the true aspect of God. And then we have the Tao, which is the formless. So how does that play into non-existence? That's just something I've been contemplating. Yeah,
essentially. And like you said, like words are just pointing to something, but that doesn't really necessarily mean that it is that something. I think in one movie with Bruce Lee, like he tried to point to the moon to show a kid, and he like looked at the finger or something. Like the words are just vehicles for meaning, but they're not necessarily the thing itself.
Shit. I'm trying to wrap my brain. Yeah, because that's what I was saying too. But I'm just like I'm contemplating as we're talking. You know, I'm already just like, how the fuck do I host the rest of the podcast? I'm like, dude, I'm just really interested in coming to these conclusions, and then I'm realizing there is no conclusion. Can we ever say for certain?
Everything's up for debate. We can say that like existing and not existing is like the void space in between the music. Like what was it Beethoven that said that, where they were like, where do you get this creativity from? And they were like, it's the space in between the notes. Like what if that's the balance with everything, like that space that doesn't exist, like that's the nothingness that exists between the existing.
Yeah, it's maybe, and I could be wrong on Dr. Hawkins' work. It's been many years since I looked at it, but I thought that was one of the questions he pondered. And this actually brings us to a good question in general. Since we're already on this topic, we might as well continue. The concept of duality and the concept of non-duality. Is there one? Is there not two? You know, these questions that we might think about a lot, because I think this is the center. It can kind of become the center of a philosophy in general. I think that's one of the biggest questions that anyone who contemplates, you don't have to be a philosopher. You don't have to get a degree to do that. But anyone who contemplates what the hell is happening is eventually going to run up to the question, is it just one thing? Is it not two things? What is all this? Because it really seems like this pillow is real separate of me, even though you aren't using it. You know what I'm saying? Like, so then it becomes, how do you both look at duality? How do you see it? What do you think the role of duality is? And then bringing that to, do you see it as non-dual, one?
All right, mate. I got to take a second to interrupt the podcast here and just tell you, hey, don't forget that we got the conference coming up. All three of us are going to be live in Sedona. If you want to get some tickets for the in-person portion, or if you want to get the tickets for the non-in-person or the virtual, check out the waitlist. Get on the waitlist, my friend. Links in the description. And we're going to be live. We're going to be Q&A-ing and stuff. It's going to be one of the greatest things I've ever done in my life. Go check it out.
Like for my thoughts, for example, I look at them as, I don't look at everything as this is what it is. Like, and I think it's the consciousness in between that, where you look at how this thought, like I'm aware that I'm aware, but my human self is not aware of this awareness. And it's like, once you merge that awareness and you're aware that you're aware, that's when you start to distinguish between those voids, as we were talking about earlier. So therefore I am this, and therefore like, oh, I don't know, but I can come to that conclusion, you know, like what am I trying to say? Like,
it's hard to abstract.
Yeah, it is.
Sometimes.
Yeah, it really is. Like,
Yeah.
because we're used to our pictures and we just like have our thoughts kind of just gathered there. But like duality, like I just look at it like we have an idea, we have a concept, and then we're told certain things, and throughout our lifetime, we're told like, oh, that sky's blue. Like that sky, this is this color. Now, do I just take it and go absolute? Like, well, there's a bunch of forms of blue. Like
Or if you spoke a different language.
Exactly.
So do I experience blue the same way you experience?
Exactly. Or do I spell gray the same as
What if
you?
you're colorblind?
Yeah, some people are colorblind. But I mean, is blueness very different for me?
Yeah.
You know? Like, I was thinking about this thing with, how depending on the focal length of a camera, you look very different.
Yeah, and that in your camera, I'm probably going to look very different because I'm 16 millimeter here, and I don't know what yours is.
Yeah, so well, that must be true that different people's eyes had different focal lengths.
Maybe.
So it probably looked different to different people, which would explain why you look at something like, what do you see in them? And it's like, oh, well, maybe they literally see them differently. Yeah. So there's no way to know how you perceive things.
And that brings up the question of body dysmorphia. I know this is going off topic, but if someone is struggling with body dysmorphia,
What is that again?
basically
Like-
when you see yourself as fat in the mirror, but you're not.
Oh.
A lot of women
Yeah.
struggle with that.
Yeah.
Like,
Maybe, do you think it's possible that they're actually seeing fat? Or do you think it's like an actual delusion? Like maybe because they're subconsciously so programmed to see it. And I've had that happen to me before where I'll be like, damn, because I've always had weight issues for a long time. So I've been very vocal about that on the podcast. I lost 125 pounds and just, that whole process, it makes me think like, am I actually seeing what other people are seeing?
so let me ask you the question again though.
Yeah.
Like during that time period, like when you did lose the weight, right?
Mhm.
What were you seeing then in the mirror?
Fat dude.
You still saw a fat dude. Like, even though you lost, like, because they say, like, look
When
at this
is the
scale.
threshold?
Yeah, look at this. What does the scale say, right? Like, they say, don't look at what the scale says, look at how you feel. How were you? I guess the better question was, how were you feeling? Like, when you were still feeling like a fat dude, even though the scale said you lost 125 pounds?
Oh, you're saying at the end,
Yeah.
not in the middle. Because I think the answer would be different in the middle. Because if you're in the middle, you're still like, fuck.
But
We still
like-
got 50 pounds
but
to
like,
go.
But like towards the end, like you have a lot of people out there, like, yeah, they reached their goal weight, or so to say, but some people still
Didn't happen.
see this
Didn't happen.
didn't happen.
I don't think I ever reached my goal weight. I got close. I remember I was in my bodybuilding days. I'm like, let's go, dude. We were almost there. But I never really felt like I got down to the body percentage that I wanted to. And I'm still not. But so that's why, unless I think there's some people that may be getting like full jacked and yoked, but I would never want to take steroids. And I was very, as someone who studied the fitness industry, you're just fucking full of steroids. People in UFC, Nate Diaz, everyone's on steroids. So it's like, it's kind of cultured, like in some sense, a lot of dudes do that. And I haven't, I found it hard to get down to that very edge, but now I'm committed. Now I feel I'm good with it. Now I've done that inner work, and I feel like sometimes it still gets me, but I just am lessening that time. It's that consistency of the devaluing those thoughts that come up.
Right.
You know?
Because it's like, all right, like you could tell a boxer, right? Like, oh, you can't fight. Like, and he's the greatest boxer. You're telling Floyd Mayweather, like, you can't fight. He's going to take that thought and just be like, yeah, whatever. I got so many titles to prove that I can't fight. I don't have to like prove to you anything that I can't fight. Like, I know me. I know my worth. I know what I'm capable of. So your opinion means nothing. However, it's different if that's someone else giving you your opinion, but it's different if yourself is giving you these thoughts, these opinions of yourself.
Yeah.
Because then you can't counteract that thought where it's just like, if I were to come up to him and be like, dude, you're fat. Like, then if you look good, like Deion Sanders says, if you look good, you feel good. You feel good, you play good. You play good, they pay good, right? So if you have this self-confidence within you, like, and then someone comes up to you and says, yeah, you're fat, you're going to be like, yeah, I don't care. Whatever. I know me. I look good.
So where am I at on that scale then?
Yeah, where are you on that?
On that, I'm like, I'm not like, I actually had this came up in the group I was in today. I was talking about this and because we did a timeline of our life and we were talking about how we might like what were the important events. And I was talking about this same concept. Like I'm to the point where I know that I'm not fat. I'm not fat. I'm 15 pounds heavier than I'd like to be, but that doesn't mean that this version of me isn't acceptable and that I don't love myself now. I think there's a difference when you start to say, like, fat people can love themselves. That's a thing. You know what I'm saying? Some people don't even give a fuck. Like one of my favorite comedians, he's fucking massive. I can't remember his name. He was just on JRE recently. Yeah, Stavros. Yeah, I love that guy, and he doesn't really give a shit. You know, it was no, it was. That's the name. Yeah, he's hilarious, and so I don't even think it's like a bad thing to be that. It's just I want to reach my potential, and I know that I can, and so I think for me now at this point in my life, it's like if I'm just doing the work, I don't have to be doing the work all the time, but more than I'm not. You know, and I think that's important for me. It's like I don't have to be perfect now. Like I had some popcorn beforehand. Shit, you know, it's all good. Yeah, it's like I don't have to be like on 100%. Some people are like that, but I don't find that that's a good balance for me. A balance for me is like I think I've always loved the saying, if I'm 1% better today in 100 days, I'll be 100% better. And so I'm not striving for perfection because I think it's unreachable, but rather to give it all I got and to understand that sometimes you just got to enjoy life too, which is another thing because I enjoyed life too much recently. And then I got a trainer and I've been going twice a week and really getting back into it. And I'm falling in love with taking care of my body again.
And that's all that matters. Cause like, honestly, I came across a dude and this is all tying into what we were talking about earlier with how others might perceive them.
Yeah. I'm going to get some water.
Like there was this dude who works with me. He still works with me and he's at least 300 plus pounds, but he gets really attractive women. And I just was like, I was like, what is it? He's not rich because he's still in the same job as me. But like, what it factor does he have? And then when I really start to put things together, like if you really start to perceive yourself a certain way, like maybe the world starts perceiving you that way as well. Like it's the energy that you are putting out there that's gravitating a certain crowd or an audience to you. So, and then you get into the whole female gaze versus male gaze. Like there's a sensitivity. Like I remember when I was bodied, like when I was 20 pounds heavier. I thought that like, oh, I'm gonna get jacked just so the girls can like me, you know? But I was getting more complimented by guys. Like I wasn't getting any like girls that were there, but it was more so like the guys were like, I see you, bro. I see you. I see what you're doing. And I'm like, dang. But I felt like I got more women when I was not focused on my self-image, when I was just living my life happy. I was just doing me on my goal, on my grind, on a different aspect.
I was thinking about that when Nick was talking about like the last 10 or 15 pounds. And a lot of those people who have super low body fat percentage or are on steroids, they're some of the most body dysmorphic people out there, right? They see themselves as small and they want a giant, like these massive bodybuilders. And like, yeah, and like that last 10 or 15 pounds that you want to lose to get to 10% body fat, I mean, that's like, now you can't go have a beer because you're not going to get 10, it's like you can't enjoy things. So if you're not ever at that perfect body fat percentage, well, that means you're fucking having a good life. If you're enjoying yourself, you're going to dinner, man.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to hit some dinner after this. And I might get something nice. I feel like we went super out of our way this whole trip to be real conscious about what we were eating. We went to Whole Foods as soon as we got off the airport. Me and you, we went to Whole Foods and got food that was like actual real food. And I remember you saying like, man, it feels so good to have real food, you know?
Yeah, it did. Like, honestly, like, I just feel like as humans, we give in to like the movie Soul, for example. You notice how when they were in that soul realm where she's eating the pizza and he's like, up here, you can't feel it because it's just like our bodies are the true ones that feel the joys of eating pizza, feel the joys of giving into the food. But at the end of the day, once she gets to Earth, she realizes, oh my gosh, pizza's amazing. And that's what we're all we're getting back to earlier. Live your life, like enjoy.
Yeah, but I think that there is that, but then you can derive too much pleasure, and then you, like me, you start to get pleasure from food to the point where that's like your favorite thing to do.
But that's where balance comes.
Right, that's what I'm getting. That's where I'm going. It's like a big thing that I would tell anyone that's struggling with weight and body fat and feeling like you have too much. It would be really the message what I said last night. I mean, that's how I really truly think, which is, really take a look at, am I living to eat or am I eating to live? What am I really doing? And I feel like I've really been just eating because I love the taste of the sense pleasure. So it's also like learning the discipline of like, I can have some of it, not like a whole pound, or you know what I'm saying, or whatever it might be, like the whole bag I didn't eat the whole bag of popcorn, it's just like, you can still enjoy it, but also like understanding how the body works, and like, it doesn't need that much, and I think that actually comes from a deeper issue for me, because I wasn't like fulfilled. I wasn't actually happy. Like I wasn't in a space of love for in a way that was tangible enough for myself, for me to not want to eat too much, basically.
Is there some kind of catalyst where you were like, fuck it, this is enough, I'm going to...
Yeah, I looked in the mirror. I think one day that happened. That happened the first time. It was the first time when I was 315 pounds. I remember I moved to Indiana and I started working at an Amish restaurant as a dishwasher. It was my second job. My first job was McDonald's, and I just remember looking in the mirror at my aunt's house and just saying to myself, holy shit. I know that so many people who have weighed a lot will relate to this. You don't even realize that you're that big. And then one moment you look in the mirror and you're just like, shit, this is where I'm at. And it's like, you don't think you have huge love handles, but they're there. And it's just like, you come to terms with like it. And then, from the levels of consciousness, you experience shame and guilt, and then you're moving into apathy, hopelessness. I think not everyone, but this is my experience. I move into hopelessness, and it like the way that Dr. Hawkins describes the levels is exactly how I experienced it. It was like, then I'm like hopeless. Then I'm in grief of all the time that that I'm gonna lose, or that I lost in the past, because it's just like I'm realizing how all this stuff that I've held in, and I never felt the loss of my parents getting divorced. Like, that's what I mean by all this stuff I lost in the past, is like, I never really came to terms with like my parents hate each other. Like, and it was really tough, and I never let myself feel that. And I was just angry about it. And I never sat down and was like, fuck man, it's okay. And I did that. And I'm just like, well, I can't take it out of my body and find pleasure from this. Like, I can't let the way that they treat each other affect the way that I live, and the way that I eat, and the way, everything that I do. And so then I just said, fuck it. This is it, man. I can't live like this anymore. And then I took that journey, and then it came back again, because we talked about earlier.
Remember we talked about last night where I'm meant to ask you, like, when it comes to the stuff that gives us pleasure, for example, like, I remember at one time I struggled with social media, like just constantly being on social media, and I was getting that dopamine release from constantly seeing, oh, you got 10,000 new followers, you got this many new likes. And it was just like, oh, I feel it validated. That feed me that validation, and that adrenaline, that addiction. And then how you can not get that validation and you feel sad, and you're just like, yo, this is a down. So then we talked about the aspect of like now I leave my phone upstairs and I get more validation from not checking my phone. Did you get validation at one point from not eating, like where you didn't have reward yourself
right now?
Yeah, like right now it's your validation, like this trip, like did that do it?
I mean, it's just cliche, but at the beginning of the year, day one, January 1st, I was just like, even though there were so many people in the spiritual community, they're like, it's not actually the start of the year. We are actually the Catholic Church, just doing that. And I'm just like, but we can still use this as a catalyst. It might be a permission slip, but fuck it. It can work. It's like this is another year. And yeah, we count it this way and we might be off. I don't know if you guys heard about that, the October, November, December thing. And there might be truth to it, but it's like, I really sat down and started a year and said, this is it. This is my year. Like for real. And then I put in the work. I called my girlfriend Dysfunctional Patterns and I said, you know what? I'm going to do it. Like sign me up. I want to start working with someone. And I've been going in person, doing the functional patterns, and it's changed my life. And I started to fall in love with not eating gluten, with in grains, because functional patterns is really against grains because it inflames your body, and a lot of inflammation stops you from being able to pull your, basically to contract your abdomen. And when you can't contract your abdomen, what happens is that you can't stabilize your body correctly. So then it'll put everything out of whack. So that's why they're against grains. But I started to see, and now I'm not perfect, and I had rice, and it is what it is.
It was a good dinner last night. I will say
yeah.
it was fire. That was pretty good. You enjoyed it.
Yeah, I'm good with it, but I think for me, I'm finding a balance. She's way stricter than I am on that. I understand I'm on a vacation in a sense, I'm traveling because I love traveling, so I see it as a vacation whenever I'm traveling. So I kind of am finding that balance. I still found gratification that we went and bought the food and we cooked, put in the effort. Me putting in the effort to cook the food myself, there's a sense of gratification I get from that, and
relationship.
Yeah,
you're building a healthier relationship with food as opposed to just consuming mindlessly. We talk about with social media, it's all the same thing. You're just kind of mindlessly consuming, and you have this desire to just put something in your mouth or in your mind.
Yeah.
But then when you cook a meal or you go and you source the ingredients, it's a different relationship you have with it.
Yeah, and I kind of had fun, just me and you, just picking out shit. We were just in Whole Foods, what the hell are we gonna eat? And we're just talking to the guy at the counter, and
I think
then
it's
you call me.
working hard to
yeah.
get
Then I
there,
FaceTimed
too.
you, yeah.
And I had the worst sinus infection ever. I'm still recovering from it, but yeah.
It's getting better.
Yeah.
I feel like since we've been here,
It has.
slowly, yeah. What were you gonna say, bro?
I was gonna say working hard to get there actually gives you that too, that sense of accomplishment. When you unconsciously eat, it's just in front of you and you're just doing it, and it doesn't take anything to just pick up the bag of chips and put it in your mouth. But actually cooking the food, taking the time to go get the ingredients to do all this stuff is the same as accomplishing a big run or something like that. It takes a lot of work, which is why it feels very accomplishing, very satisfying,
And from working out, eating is the the most important aspect of it. I'd say working out is a small percentage, but the harder part when it comes to working out is the eating and sleeping. We can never get all three right. We're slacking in one, and it's once you have all three in sync and balanced out, that's when you start seeing results. That's when everything starts to flow. Because me personally, it was I'm either working out really hard or I'm sacrificing sleep. But or the eating sacrifices here, because it's expensive to eat healthy. Let's be real. To eat healthy in this country, it is expensive. And you see it played out in movies where it seems I feel the rich are the ones who survive the longest. You look at Hunger Games, rich don't send their kids to get slaughtered in the Hunger Games, or the movie In Time, who lived the longest, the rich. That's literally what goes on now. All your unhealthy restaurants, all this junk, these toxins are in your bad neighborhoods, your low income neighborhoods, while meanwhile, your Whole Foods are in the higher income neighborhoods, the foods that keep you living long and prospering. It's expensive to live. And that's wild. But you should give yourself a pat on the back for what you accomplished this week and cooking all of it. It was fire, and I appreciated it.
Yeah, bro. You gave us a good suggestion. I was going to buy regular rice, and today was the first time I had frozen rice. Well, not today.
And you thought it was good?
It was good, man.
It was.
Yeah.
Make that suggestion.
I always
what he
cook
does.
frozen rice. I think it takes way too long to just boil it or whatever else you do.
Yeah.
I always just cook frozen.
Yeah, I
rice.
didn't even know it
Throw in the
existed.
microwave.
No, in the pan.
Stovetop.
Just
Oh, yeah, I noticed that when you were cooking it because I use a rice cooker. but you just threw it in the pan. I was like,
You see, I gotta get one of those then.
We did burn it a little bit.
The rice cookers are nice.
We did burn it. The first night was worse. But yeah, I mean, that was crazy. You just throw 4 tablespoons in, you get a whole package. And yeah, I learned a little bit on that. Being fat at some point though helped me to understand how to cook, because you start to, want to make good stuff too. But even trying to get healthy, it's just a different aspect of cooking. It's like you want to learn how to cook good, and then also what's good for your body too.
What would you say helped you the most? Like, was it something internally, like a sort of
for losing weight in general?
Losing weight in general, yeah.
What helped me the most, man? Absolutes. Let's see. The thing that probably helped me the most was there's always been this. I don't know if any of you guys experienced, but there's always this. There's this. It's gonna sound so cheesy, but there's this small kind of essence or beingness within me that is like calm, and it's like peaceful, and it is like I almost feel like it's like this sense of greatness or genius that everyone has. Not saying that I have more than anyone, because I don't. I think every human has that sense of genius within them. And me just like, it kind of get emotional thinking about it. But in those moments where I was 325, 315, 280 pounds, I knew that it was there. Like I could reach the point is I could reach my potential. And the more that I listen to that basically you could think of it as a genius, or you can think of it as just literally a potential. Like I could actually do this if I tried. Like I for real actually did it.
Like the tree and the seed or something. Like the potential's already latent within you to be who you actually want to become.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think that's why I got emotional earlier, because it's just like I know the potential when I wrote that letter and I said it's going to come at the right time, because I've already laid the groundwork and whatnot.
You wrote a letter to yourself.
I wrote a letter to myself of where I'm going to be in such and such time, and Kim's going to send it back to me, and I'm going to smile and not be as emotional, because thy will be done. I literally said that at the end of the letter, thy will be done. But I do have to ask you though, like did you have a girlfriend when you were putting on this weight?
I have been very relationship minimalist for my entire life.
I like the term.
You like that? I just made that shit up on the spot, by the way. Yeah, I mean, I haven't been Jessie, my girlfriend. We've been together for 2.5 years now, and before that, I really haven't been in relationships. I've been too into games. I was playing games for most of my life. I was not a partier. I never went out, and I was so big that I didn't have the confidence as well to actually go talk to women, and so I didn't. And when I lost that weight, it was just me. Yeah, I mean, I didn't until 2.5 years ago, and that was when I lost all the weight. That was in 24. Began in 2014, and it was probably till like 2016.
Takes a while.
Yeah.
When you looked in the mirror and you had that holy shit moment, before that, did you avoid mirrors?
We just don't look at them. You don't look at them.
Like,
Yeah.
You just wouldn't, like
You don't pay attention.
You don't really look deeply at it.
Like when you're going to the bathroom and wash your hands, you don't look at the mirror.
You just look down.
That's part of how it kind of gets there.
Yeah, big regret is that I didn't have a camera on you, bro. Shit.
Well, I got one right here. So.
Oh, you got? Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Oh shit!
So,
Let's go! I'm so happy.
That, right?
Yeah.
I am so happy about that. Yeah.
But yeah, it's there.
Oh my god, what a legend, dude. Okay, great. And you get the audio's on, right? Thank God. Okay. Shout out, man. That's fantastic.
He came prepared.
He came prepared to
so
know.
prepared.
I'm so fucking hyped about that, because I'm thinking to myself, man, I want to have him in the video where we can see like him asking the question, because I love what you're saying, man. So yeah, I mean, when that came about, I wasn't into philosophy. I didn't really study the nature of reality. It was 2014. It was a long time ago. I didn't really begin to understand this stuff until 2017, 2018 was when I started to have, that kind of pivotal moment, and I want to talk about mine, and I actually want to hear about all of yours. Like, what is the beginning? Like, what kind of started it? So if you want to get that ruminating in your head, or you want to go for it, sure.
Yeah, no, for me, honestly, what started my journey was being in the fire department, which I'm transitioning from, but it was being able to like growing up in a Christian household and then seeing like talking to a near death experience. This woman, I never forget her. She had a near death experience where she came back and I'm cleaning off the stretcher and I'm just like she's just staring in a blank stare, just like rocking. And I had to pick up something in the room that she was in. Like we just got her back. She's young, has a healthy heart. They had her in the room and I was just like, so what did you see? Kind of in like a joking, condescending manner. Cause like, you know, you have your judgments that we talked about earlier where I'm like, what she did to get herself to that point, you kind of look down on those people. So I'm like, what did you see? And she was just like, I'm mad. I feel everything. I feel all the pain and the emotion that I had in my body. I feel everything that I wanted to escape from. Now that you guys brought me back, I feel everything that is wrong. When I was gone, I felt pure bliss. I felt euphoria. I felt nothing but like a blissful, you can't describe the feeling until you actually are there. And it is no drug or anything can get you to the point of what I felt. I felt a oneness with the universe. And I felt like I lived infinite, like time did not exist. I was blown away from that answer. And then I talked to someone else who kind of described the same thing. And they described it as a dreamlike state where they were in the best feeling, like they had the best time of their life with their dad. They were hunting. It was like a dream they were reliving over and over. And that's when I started seeing like things come up, like Joe Rogan talks about, like DMT and whatnot, where your body produces a massive amount when you're born and when you die. And then when you dream, you produce a little amount. And I'm like, well, I have my own dream experiences that we'll talk about in other videos or whatnot. But I know how powerful a dream can be and where the journey that your mind takes you. So it got me like really looking into the concept of like what happens like when we die. And I've had a past life regression where and that's when I came across Journey of Souls. I came across Dolores Cannon. And after my past life regression, I really dove deep into that. And it was just a downhill spiral from there. Well, not a downhill, an uphill spiral where I've always been one to question, like, well, why does the Bible say this? And why does this religion say that? Like, why doesn't the
divine
Bible...
authority? You're questioning that?
Yes, I'm questioning everything that like the pastor would talk about. I'm like, yo, why, who was here before Adam and Eve? Like simple questions as a kid. And my mom or my grandma's like, shh, you don't question the preacher. I'm just like, but who was here? Like, who did they mate with? They mated with their sisters, their brothers, and they created them. It was just a lot of questions that just didn't make sense to me at a young age. And I've always been a curious person. And I think that's what sparked my content. Like, and not to get too conspiracy, but like 9/11, for example, I was telling this in a group. I was like, as a firefighter, I'm very familiar with building construction and collapse of a burning building. And I was just like, as a kid, I don't understand, why did World Trade Center 7 fall? Like, I'm asking my mom, that didn't get hit. And why did a plane cause the building? It never made sense to me. And then as I get older and learn, I'm like, I'm not going to get too much into the conspiracy portion of 9/11. But I'm just saying, like, I've always been a curious mind and I never just accepted what I was given. I continued to question. And that's what led me to my content. And the spiritual journey, it's still continuing. I'm still learning. I'm still very new in this journey. And I'm learning as I go. And I'm learning from you all. So like you, for example, like what started yours?
Well, real quick before you start, I just want to say I'm not the Universe the Game podcast is not claiming that it is or it isn't anything. It might be, it might not.
We know nothing.
Go ahead. We know nothing for sure. So go ahead.
I think it was it was pretty recently for me, like when I was about, I think 20 or maybe now it was 3 years ago, like during COVID, I just had a lot of free time and you're there, you don't know what to do. The only thing you can, like, you have different options to explore things. I started going on TikTok. I started seeing different things. And then next thing I know, I see this TikTok video pop up about like astral projection. And it's like, you can actually leave your body and experience this whole other, supposedly the world, and like go to the stars or like go wherever you want, floating, flying. And you can do that right now. And we're
Shit,
stuck
sign
here.
me up.
Yeah. And it supposedly it said like the CIA also did it. Like, I want to fucking do that. So then I started like trying to meditate and trying to at least like try to get it to those states. I still haven't astral projected, sadly, at least in this at my age right now. But then I started like asking my mom about that stuff, and she like started telling me stories about like, you told me you left your body when you were like a baby, like at 4 years old. You said you asked me like, where do you go at night when you leave your body through your belly button? Which is like, sometimes I think they say like the astral line, like the cord, the line of life is connected through your belly button, and you can like see your astral form to your physical body connected by the belly button. I'm still not sure. I could have been like a baby just imagining things, but she said that I did that stuff and like went to like Egypt or something like that, and then like that got me like thinking like all this stuff could be like true. I still have yet to experience it, so I still can't say from direct experience.
Have you taken this body to Egypt yet?
I have not even in physical form.
That's what I'm
yet.
saying. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I really want to go to Egypt though.
I know that should be a trip we all try to make.
Yeah.
Because I'm drawn to it. Like I feel, I mean, as you can see, like I'm like Egypt.
Robert Grant invited me to go to Egypt this year.
Isn't Robert Grant connected with the Russell work somehow?
I mean, I'm not going to claim anything here. This is what they told me at the museum. This is what they told me. I'm not saying, I didn't hear Robert say this himself, but apparently the story goes that he came here as a speaker, or he came there because we're close to it. We're not there right now. We're at there maybe, but went there as a speaker, and he told them that he thought he was Walter Russell reincarnated. That's what I heard. I don't know. Like, I'm not saying that is facts.
You should ask him.
I don't know. He made that.
Say that to you.
Correct.
Okay.
Ask him. I mean,
He told me to go there. He told me to go there though. Before I even decided this, I asked him. I'm like, should I do this? And he's like, yeah, it's cool. Because he's like, oh, I went there. Yeah.
Well, he's Walter. Of course, he'd tell you to go there.
Yeah, man.
Check on my old.
Well, actually, he wasn't there, but to go to Waynesboro. Yeah, I mean, we did go to Swannanoa, so technically, he was there, right? But let me get back to my story. I don't know if I've talked about this. So one of the biggest things I would say was, I talked about this with you guys a little bit, but I had an experience where I was actually I did have a girlfriend at that moment. Okay, this was in Phoenix. When I moved to Phoenix, I was like probably 20. Yeah, 2021, and it was nothing serious. I don't know if we were hanging out, right? And we were going to the movies, and I remember I just shut the door on the car, and I was walking up the movie theater, and I can feel it before I'm even talking about it, which is wild. But I began to feel this sensation right here, and I had no idea what it was, and then everything started to get crispy. Like everything looked like it was in 26,000 HD. You know, it was just like the detail of everything, and everything looked like etheric but detailed. I don't know if you guys have experienced anything like that before, but it was just like this kind of. But it wasn't anything after that. It wasn't anything like an illuminary moment or anything like that. But it was just my ability to sense reality changed, and that really kind of opened me up to what the heck just happened to me, you know. And I started to kind of do some searching, trying to figure that out. And then I didn't really like accept the call. I kind of did that on the side, just like during my free time, and it wasn't that important. But then as I just continued on, it just got to the point where that's what I really wanted to talk about and just do. And it was like, this is really interesting, the nature of reality, and how our body works. Maybe there is a pineal gland, and what does it do? And have the D to the M to the T in there, you know? And how does that work? Is there actually crystals in there? And it just, by the way, for the record about crystals, I just want to say this at one point. I saw a recent podcast with like a guy who was like saying, this astrologer who turned to Christianity because of how evil the astrology was, and at the beginning of the podcast, the guy says, like, she was into weird things like crystals, and I'm like, your fucking phone has a crystal in it, buddy. Your laptop's got a crystal in it, and it looks like we have piezoelectric crystals. Somewhere in here, there's research to show. So what the hell are we talking about? We use crystals for electricity. We use it for not just electricity, but to process. It's ridiculous to me that people think that crystals are evil. And even the study of the stars, how do you turn that evil? The only reason why, to me, well, there might be more, but this is my reasoning. People who try to demonize things like astrology. Now, I'm not even really into astrology. I don't really talk about astrology. I don't think I've ever had an astrologist on the podcast.
Talk about it a little bit.
So you do a bit, yeah. So I'm not saying like I'm a hype expert or something. I don't really give that many shits, but it's just like they start to justify narcissism and personality traits as to the system is bad. Like the person is just becoming narcissistic and they're becoming depressed and anxious, and they're not doing anything about it. They're not personally developing, but they're just studying a system and hoping the system will save them. And that's what we've seen throughout history with religions too. So if you to try to make something a religion when it's just like, hey, this is how you might work because of the stars, really? I mean, you're more into astrology. So, I mean,
just people fear what they don't know, you know? Like astrology is very vague, like not vague, it's very broad. Like it's so much, like I can't just narrow it down. There's so many, there's astrology that tells you why you incarnated. There's astrology that tells you your typical, how your life's going to plan out. It's so much that you probably can have podcasts on podcasts just on astrology alone. But I think that people fear what they don't know, especially when it comes to crystals. Like you got crystals in your phone, like you mentioned, it's reading your mind. Like it's tapping into that. Like we think that our phones are reading our mind. Like those crystals are connected, you know? So I don't, you know.
Yeah, why do you think people demonize things
like astrology
or crystals or these things that are like, oh, this is new age, and they start to do that shit? Why do you think that happens? I'm just curious.
I can't tell. Like I just said earlier, like people just fear they haven't took the time to look into it. Like they haven't took the time to be like do a birth chart on
actually
themselves.
Understand.
Yeah. Like
kind of people who in Christianity will then demonize Hinduism, but they've known nothing about it.
I think it's because it goes against their belief system. Yeah. It's a competition too. Like they want to like say, oh, anything that's not Christianity is of the devil. And then that puts like crystals, other religions, anything that's not based on the doctrines, the absolute truths of what the priest and like religion in Christianity says, is something that they're going to not fuck with just because they're really indoctrinized into that absolute truth of what they think it is.
And what would you say to those people?
Just, I don't even know if you can like, can you even convince someone that's like that?
I'm not asking you to convince. I'm just right on the spot. What would you say to someone who's like really?
I guess in that situation is just like, the only thing you can say is like, I understand where you're coming from. And all I want to do is just have a mutual sense of understanding. Like I want to understand why you think that's the absolute truth. And I want you to understand why I think this is not of the devil. Like have just some sort of mutual understanding where instead of just completely denying it, that's what they mostly do. It's just they say, no, I'm not even going to look into this because I already know it's of the devil or like some shit like that. They don't even try to understand it or look into it before even like wanting to talk to you about it. So I would try to at least get some sort of understanding before.
I simply would just challenge them to look into other sources. Like look into other sources besides one book because there's more that predates it. Like look into that. If you can't do that, then it's no point to debate them. I don't waste my time in comments to even debate people who just say, just read the Bible. Like I read it. That's what my grandma made me do, you know?
Just confess to Jesus your sins.
Yeah, it's just like, okay.
I'm not trying to make fun of it, but that's actually what people comment on my shit. Like that's not even like, I mean, it kind of, right.
It's either sources.
I do not claim this negative input. You know what they're going to say.
Sources, trust me, bro.
Yeah.
Just read the Bible. Just confess your sins to Jesus.
Or this is fucking pseudoscience.
Right.
Yeah.
Where-
Which is like,
right.
okay. Like, just, I can give you sources to read if you like. And if you read those, then we can then come back to me and then we can have an enlightening conversation. Like, I just challenge everybody, just change, like, try to change. Like, I know it's hard, like, because you're so indoctrinated and the cognitive dissonance doesn't allow you to break away from.
There's
your
nothing
beliefs,
wrong with
and it's
those
nothing.
people.
No.
It's just like, that's just where they're at. And that's fine. And I think there's going to be a lot of people that we need to be able to talk to. So it's not a bad thing. We're not trying to insult people either, and I think it's important to just understand that, like, hey, we're all in this together.
Like, I pulled some stuff from the Bible, like where you
did.
Yeah,
I've
like
seen-
I tried to quote the same sources to show that we are all describing the same thing. Like, the Bible says this, like, and people are like, oh, and it's so crazy. They're willing to, like, throw the pseudoscience stuff out there, but then they're willing to believe that, oh, we live under a dome and we live in a firmament. And like I said, I'm not here to debate, confirm, nor deny that, because I truthfully don't know. I can't say we're on a giant rock floating in space. I can't say we're under a firmament, but I'm not going to debate nobody. I'm up for suggestions. I'm up for listening to people's thoughts, but that's in the Bible. Like, it does say that God
created the firmament.
Right.
And I think it's also hard for us because, as someone, all three of us are trying to break into the longer form content game. Like right now, I think that's something that we all talked about. It's like, let's get into a little bit longer form than like a minute content and do things a little bit like more, maybe it's polished or just different, right? And as people, all three of us especially, and you've made your own content as well, right? And you might know how hard it can be to like fit sources and everything you want to say into 60 seconds. And if you don't fucking prove that shit is 100% facts, right? People come after you.
And that's where we were getting in with the sources. Like, when we
that's what I'm getting
incorporate
at.
sources, where everyone wants to nitpick. Well, he wasn't the greatest scholar. He did this. He did that.
So many people were salt. We did a podcast like 6 months ago. So many people were salt being like, the guy who said the plants are conscious. No, nobody can fucking do that again. It's just fucking There were so many people, and it's just like, relax. Not everyone, because this is the problem too. Everyone thinks, well, not everyone. I don't like to talk in absolute, so I'm not going to. A very intentional wording here is a lot of people that are on social media think that every video is trying to convince them, and they're always like on high alert. And if it doesn't go with how they think right now, then it's fucking bullshit. And it's like, maybe we could just be like, could be. Right? And if it is BS, okay. And I'm sure I've probably talked about some stuff that probably ended up being BS. And on the journey to figure out what the hell is going on in this reality, I think that's okay. And for us to admit that maybe we were wrong. And I have admitted before when I find evidence contrary, and I've made videos. So I've been very open. So I think it's also okay to just say, in science in general, I think science has a problem with that sometimes, is admitting, hey, this theory might not be it, or this experiment, and just kind of like restructuring back to, we might have to take it back.
We could just say it's just all for fun too. Like, that's what I kind of think of it as. Like,
I've
we're
been
just looking
doing
at
comedy.
stuff and exploring ideas. We're not saying like this is the truth about reality. It's like, this is a theory I liked. Maybe you might like it too. Or this is an idea I liked. Maybe you don't like it. It doesn't matter. We're just having fun with it, exploring things.
That's kind of the approach I go with my content now, where I'm just having fun and leaving it up for interpretation and up for debate. Like, I don't believe in everything that I say, like, to be real. Like, I just go with the flow of what I think is interesting, and I just put it out there for people to debate. That's it.
And then we need to talk about belief. Because that's another word. We talked about knowing, but I think now the question is what is belief? What's the difference between belief and knowing? Because then we can believe things, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they're true, even in is outright. And I think it's even become, as I don't know about you guys, but it's become harder to actually believe in certain things besides like the fundamental principles of reality. Like, because people ask me all the time, do you believe that? It's like, I think that it could be like that. And I think that it's more likely than not, but I'm almost like kind of starting to be more intentional when I say I believe, improve, and these words that might not be actually accurate. Because, wording is really important, and the way that you express yourself. But we don't want a word salad either. So I'm just trying to find that balance,
I think resonating could be like if you like an idea, you could say I resonate more with this idea, but I don't necessarily believe it's the absolute fact. Because I think some of us, we resonate with like the law of one or something like that. And we see like maybe more truth in it than other things, but that doesn't necessarily mean we think it's the absolute truth. And like that's actually how reality
people need to
is.
understand that. Yeah.
Yeah.
In general. And I think a lot of people that are listening to this podcast understand that, or else they wouldn't be with me, And we're not trying to say that it is 100%. Especially, we've talked a lot about channeled work since we've been here. We've had a lot of conversations between the three of us. It's like
We're trying to stay away from that, but
as like a fundamental viewpoint, and that's why we're like, the law of one's really interesting as a philosophy, but you really lose a lot of people when you start talking about channeled stuff. But I mean, there are a lot of people that do believe in it. But if you're trying to reach like a whole audience, like that is kind of a complete version of humanity's thinking, you might have to like bring it outside of channel. And I think channel work can be helpful for concepts. Like law of one was helpful for octaves. We actually had a conversation about that. The octave and densities in law of one is very much useful to understanding how things work. But at the same time, let's look in other areas too, and let's see. I think all three of us are kind of that type of creator to not really dial really deep into one philosophy, but rather how can we look at all of them?
The elephant.
Right? That's what you said. I mean, the elephant is a perfect example, right?
it kind of nips everything right then and there. We're all explaining the same thing. Like, who's to say like the octave is not us moving on, like what science and quantum theory would describe us as moving on to a different universe or whatnot. Like there are, like I told you guys my experience where I felt like I died in a fire and I haven't been the same. Hence why I feel like I need to go with this journey, because I feel like there's a part of me in a different universe that is dead, that died, and I'm feeling the connection, because you know how we can connect with different molecules way across the universe.
Quantum entanglement.
Yeah. Correct. So it's just like, I feel like I'm feeling the impact of that, because it was an intense moment where I'm like, yo, somewhere like in Rick and Morty, to loop back to that, like there was the episode where he like told the dude Jaguar, he was like, hey, do I have a daughter in another universe? And Rick was like, nope, just me. No, because he didn't want to explain to him, like, yeah, your daughter exists in this universe and she's alive, but, you know, I just don't want you to follow me and, you know, always be with me trying to find her. But yeah, we have infinite, I'm not saying this is absolute, but who's to say like this infinite universe theory does not exist? Like we could be possibly having this same podcast where I'm sitting there, you're sitting here, and we're doing the same thing, but just in a different order. Or who knows, something else could have happened.
Or I got that tat.
Yeah, bro, exactly.
Saved on the side. Fuck the long hair. I'm bald head. I mean, I don't know if I'd ever go bald head. I don't know. I like the hair. There's something about the hair. I always felt more connected.
Yeah, don't go bald unless you have to.
Yeah, I don't.
Unless you have to.
I don't think I can pull off the bald look, but I do feel you feel connected with your hair. Like
yeah,
I think you notice all of us have long hair. Yeah, and I feel like you look at all these quote unquote spiritual content creators or whatnot, like, or just people who just feel like, I just feel like your hair helps you. Like it helps you connect. I'd say these are my antennas. Like these.
That's I thought that's what a lot of indigenous cultures believe. I thought there were some, and if this is not facts, I want Grant, my boy, my editor, put not facts on the screen, or or just like add yourself voicing in. This is not facts. But from my understanding, there was just some stories about the indigenous cultures getting recruited for certain wars.
Yeah, you're talking about the Native American tracking experiment, where because they would shave the head of the Native Americans who were recruited, and they saw that they recruited them for their tracking capabilities. And then once they found that, like, oh, there's some ass, like they're not able to track anything. What the heck is going on? But then they were saying, you cut our hair, you cut our connection to the ether. So once they said, you know what? Or they did a blind experiment where they allowed one to keep his hair and one not to keep his hair. And the one whose hair was cut, he was caught immediately, while the one who was able to keep his hair, he was able to evade all his captors and for the entire night of the experiment. And that's when they changed the standard. Like, you know what? Maybe there might be some truth to that.
It's wild because what if that's just like by shaving his head, you just fucked up his whole identity and it was kind of a placebo thing. Like it wasn't really that, but because he thought that was it, he lost the ability to do it before he still had it. That's what like placebo stuff blows my mind. As it still works sometimes. Like the things with sugar pills, like it still works. So it was effective. So therefore, what? I don't know.
You know, you took that story from me, and I just want to say you took it over. Thank you. Oh, because you knew it way better. I was about to scuff the fuck out of that story because that's why I prefaced it. This could not be facts.
No, I did a video on that, and my old account got deleted. But that was one of my things where people ask me like about my hair. Like I feel connected to my hair. Like these are my antennas. I feel like I've received the most downloads since I've had hair. And then people make the counter argument, well, what about bald people who are spiritually advanced? Yeah, like the Buddhist monks and whatnot. Like they're incredibly enlightened. I'm not a monk. I just know that what works for me and how I feel connected. I feel connected with my hair. Like I cried because I thought in a dream my hair was cut, and I woke up and I was depressed. Like, and I was, oh wait, I still have my hair. Like it was traumatic. Like the thought of losing my hair. It's my identity now. And I had COVID and I actually did lose my hair. I had a huge bald spot that actually grew back, and I developed alopecia. And that right there was a like self-conscious moment because I always had to wear my hair in buns, or you guys noticed when I first came in, I'm always wearing hats because I was so used to that. I had to wear hats for like since COVID, like for 2 years for that hair to grow back. But it started off as like a dime and then grew to the size of a silver dollar, where I lost so much hair. And I was just like, oh gosh, that's my identity that I'm losing, you know? And then I found when I stopped thinking about the hair loss, it grew back. Also, rosemary oil, like that really helps with hair thinning and hair loss for anybody who's interested. Like that's what helped me.
This is my first time having long hair. I've never had long hair until like, I guess I started growing it 8 months ago, something like that. I always had short hair. I had a big beard too, and then I was like, well, that's got to go.
I don't know. I like the big beard. If I could grow it in better here, that bitch might be like right here, right now. I swear, I love it, but I think it looks weird when it's just this part that's super long. So I like that. I like this length for how my hair grows. But that reminded me of in the Bible, isn't there?
Samson, like Delilah cut his hair and he lost his strength. Like that's what a perfect story for this Native American tracking experiment, where she literally like cut his, he told her, well, I mean, women can be the downfall to you sometimes, but he told her like, my strength is in my hair. If you cut it, I lose all my strength. And he lost everything once she cut it. Like,
I absolutely love women. I just want to say women are the best. Absolutely love. Just because, you know, I think
When they come for you, they come for you.
Right. Yeah. That's what I'm saying, bro. We gotta out our eyes, cross our T's, because you know some fucking hate women. Not you, bitch.
I don't even.
Fuck are you? You fucking bastard.
I'm just gonna clip that. We could clip that out. But I'm just saying, sometimes
I'm
like
just fucking like, but it's so ironic to do that. You know what I'm
like,
saying?
You can't please everybody
because you can't even say it can be motherfuckers.
Like that Leonardo DiCaprio meme was like, wait, yeah, there he goes. There.
Concept like watch, like they're throwing like what's
waiting for downfall.
You got to throw comedy in there. So I just gotta fucking call you. It's just we gotta look at any of it because
you gotta beat him to the.
I'm saying, fuck did you do? it's obviously you are with the love of your life that you've told about. She's incredible, you know. I don't think that'd be the case. You were hating, you know. So
I'll probably hear something from her. She's like, "What do you mean?" Like she's going to be watching this podcast with a fine comb, waiting for someone who's going to hate watching. Like, I was waiting for a slip up. What did you say about?
Luckily, it's hours in. Listen to this tune out. Who knows?
so funny, dude.
How are we into?
We're 150.
Yeah, like almost 2 hours. I never considered that though. Like obviously I knew the story about Samson, but I didn't ever really consider it like growing more powerful through growing your hair out. I do feel different than I felt 8 months ago.
Yeah, for real.
I know we're running low on water. We didn't buy enough water for the second time because we want to drink the good water. So do you guys want to take a break and we can come back later?
We can take a little break.
We can take a break, come back later. We can even go out to eat and we can just come back. If we don't come back, we'll come back at some point and just like wrap up if we're done. But maybe if we want to go more, we'll go more.
Yeah, we'll just kind of play it by ear. But either way, I'm satisfied with what we talked about today.
As long as you press record, yeah.
Would you look at that? We've reached the end of part 1 of this podcast series. We've got the second 2.5 hours with Marco, Bruno, and James. That's going to be another podcast because obviously it was too much to put in one. But if you want to know when that's going to come out, hit the follow button because you'll get the notification if you're on listening platforms. And if you want the notification when that comes out on YouTube, consider hitting the subscribe button and sticking around for many more episodes where we dive into the nature of reality and try to understand what the heck is going on here. And until the next episode, peace.